The point is, it doesn't show black people in a very good light. The Blind Side, I heard, was really, really like...
Scott, Michael Orr is a great guy. He's a fantastic person. And his social work of the black lady, she's good too.
So you liked it even though it didn't put black people in a good light?
Scott, a lot of movies don't put black people in a very... The Color Purple was terrible to black people. It was a fantastic movie. I mean, how many movies show the bad guys are blacks? Well, duh. Because in real life, most of them are. Sorry. I'm just the way it is. There's 12 million people in the United States. Half the prisons are blacks. That's way disproportional. We got a problem here. And Bill Cosby addressed it. And even Barack Obama addressed it. We got to do something about these black fathers leaving the homes. That's what happened to Michael Orr. Dad wasn't home, and his mom was a drug addict prostitute.
Dad in the home is not the answer to every problem, and some dads.
Scott, wake up!
If dad shouldn't be in the home,
wake up! Why do the blacks have a predisposition to drugs and crime and gangs and come on? I'm sorry. They're not all like that, but too many of them are. Scott, it's the black athletes that are the big embarrassment in sports. Come on. They're the ones that do the victory dances and the showing off in the end zones. A white guy never does that. The black guys are all the felons. 20% of NFL football players are felons. And they're all black, not white. Come on.
Yeah, but that's not a reason.
We got a problem.
It's not a reason to be racist.
I'm not racist, I'm realist. They got a problem.
Well, what should we do about
34% of their young people are unemployed.
What do you think?
And the national average is 4%.
What do you think should be done about the problem?
Scott, there's only one solution.
What?
Well, I mean, it's the white people need it too. We need a spiritual revival.
There's a lot more religious.
And more
religious black people than.
We need.
That's a stereotype too.
Beg your pardon?
That's a stereotype too about black people going to church and thanking God and all.
Oh, a lot of them do.
Yeah, no, I know.
But their religion is very, very, it's a mile wide and an inch deep. Same as in Africa.
Well, that's familiar.
I mean,
What do you mean same as in Africa?
I could say that about me too, but anyway.
What do you mean same as in Africa?
What do you do about it, Scott? There has to be a recognition that there's a problem amongst all of them, and they have to...
Amongst all of them?
Amongst all of them. They have to come to grips with it. Scott, they all think they're victims. They think the whitey puts them down and they don't have a chance and blah, blah, blah. And it's absolute nonsense. They've come so far, especially since the Civil Rights Act. Yeah, slavery was terrible. Of course it was. It was wrong. Of course it was. And you see, now America's paying the price. See, you reap what you sow. You reap what you sow. Now America's paying the price. They brought the blacks over here as slaves, and look what's happened to them.
So they're paying the price.
You got to get them out of the ghettos. You got to get them out of the projects. You got to get them in. Get them to live with the white people. Same as the Indians. The Indians that come off the reservation and mix with the whites, they're fine. I know lots of them. Reg Underwood and Matt Vickers and all these guys. They're great people. That's why the East Indians are doing so well.
So what you're saying is people need white people. People that aren't white need white people.
What happened in Africa when they kicked the white guys out? Rhodesia?
So you're saying white is a superior race? What you're saying is
I'm not saying they're superior. I'm saying whites are better able to govern themselves. And I talked to a guy who came from Fiji. And I said, we were talking about this movie Invictus, and it's a great story. I think I'll go see it. And it talks about how Mandela used the South African rugby team to unite whites and blacks and help the transition. Johannesburg is still one of the most violent, crime-ridden cities in the world. Two Canadians were just beat within their lives, taking an innocent hike in South Africa. Anyway. The whites taught the blacks how That's why India's taken off, because India adapted the British parliamentary system. And a lot of their customs, I mean, they love cricket, they love all the English sports, right? Soccer, you name it. Anyway. And they took that system and they ran with it. The blacks, they totally, oh no, we could. And so what happens? All the blacks turn out to be dictators, despots, who live high off the hog and their people are starving. I mean, wake up, Scott, that's the way it is. I said to this guy from Fuji, I says, blacks aren't able to govern themselves, are they? He says, no, absolutely not. He says, we need the white man in there to show us how to do it. That's just the way it is. And this guy, he's head of the Castaways Rugby Union. He's a real great guy. He's a customer of Bill's. And I've seen him out in the rugby. And he says, yeah, of course. I says, well, you know, Chris, you're not allowed to say that. He says, I do. I says, well, you can say it, because you're talking about your own people. I'm not allowed to say it. I'll be called a racist.
Well, yeah, there is.
I mean, come on, Scott. Did you see Grand Prix?
What is Grand Prix?
With the movie Grand Prix.
It's a movie.
No, not Grand. Is it Grand Prix? No, Gran Turismo. Sorry, Clint Eastwood. Great movie. Go see it. It addresses. He's a racist at the start.
Yeah.
And he befriends these Korean kids. Oh, it's a wonderful movie.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
But go see it. It's wonderful. And in The Blind Side, he grew up in these projects in the poor part of Nashville. And they show these black guys that were wanted to be buddy with him. That they're terrible people.
In the movie.
That's the way it is. Scott, it's a true life story. He was rescued literally by the white people.
So you think white?
But it's so funny.
So white is the supreme race. I've asked you this before, but you think
Scott,
is that what you think?
every man in God's sight is equal, okay?
But why do you?
But in the real world, we're not all equal.
Was it fair
and even the Bible says about the black man, he will serve the white man. I'm sorry. I'm not saying he has to.
Where does it say that?
It says that in Ezra. It says that in Genesis, when the three races came out of the ark.
There's only three.
There was the white man, the Caucasian, there was the Oriental, and there was the black. That's your three major races, variations thereof. And it says the black will serve the other two. That's just the way it is. Now, I'm sorry. If you got a problem with that,
what were the three?
You talk to God. Ham, Seth. Who was the third?
What were the
Japheth.
What were the
Japheth.
What were the three races?
No, Japheth.
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 Whites, Caucasian, blacks, and Oriental.
Where did everything else come from?
What do you mean?
Where did?
Well, there was all I mean, this is the beginning of time, Scott.
What about like people from India?
There was all inter.
No, Indians are.
Yeah, that's
Indians are.
Spanish people.
I mean, there's
It's kind of a loophole.
India's kind of a mixture of. You see, they all intermarried and interbreeded.
It's a pretty specific, different-looking thing.
But it started with three basic types.
And God just made white people better. Is that what you're saying?
Scott, we're not better in that sense of being better, but we're better able to.
That doesn't seem.
Scott, why is it that the AIDS epidemic is in Africa? Why is it that, you know, the African men, when there's wars in the ring, when they go into, they rape the women. I mean, white men do it too, but not nearly as much. It's so bad. There's a wonderful story in the Vancouver Sun. I'll give it to you. A Christian from Sudan and a Muslim from Sudan, and they came to Canada and met each other, and they're living together and best buddies. It's a wonderful story. And they say that the blacks, they do terrible things to one another, and that their heart bleeds for them. You know, they go in and they rape the women, the opposing. It's just terrible. Just terrible. Now, Scott, the Nazis were the most evil thing that maybe the world's ever seen, and they were white.